Hello and welcome to the weekly reading this week. It has gone very amethyst indeed with this amethyst pyramid, amethyst heart, amethyst point, a privately made rollerball with a lilac lid and an amethyst cluster. And I have silk here in honor of this very Venusian week in the colors that also link to the sun. This is a hand-painted silk that was painted by a friend of mine some years back. And silk is very Venusian, as I said. So this week is very solar and very Venusian. We have the Sun and Venus meeting up to create a new star point on Sunday, the Sun's day. And we also have the Lionsgate portal, which is not really an astrological portal, but a very potent one nonetheless. It's also the midway between solstice and equinox this week. So we have, and in South Africa on the 9th, Wednesday, is Women's Day. So we have got quite a lot of potent things going on for us this week, very much centered around the sun, who is the center of the solar system, and his relationship and dynamic with Venus, the muse, the goddess of love, value, beauty, how you want to be loved, how you give love. And she's in retrograde, which is that deeply reflective space. And I think this reading definitely is showing that particular situation in both its shadow and its light. So pick a card number between 1 and 4 and let's jump in. Remember, it's a general reading, but the number or numbers of cards that you pick hold particular focal point for you this week. So as we jump in, oh, and I forgot to mention, we also have the same day as Lionsgate, which is the 8th of the 8th. We also have the last quarter moon in Leo. So it's a very Leo energy, and Leo is the sign ruled by the sun. This is our weekly reading, and you can see we have 2 upside down sword cards, which are where we're thinking, the sort of mental process at the moment, and 2 upright cards in the center. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? The 5 of Swords upside down, and also, as I said, the 7 of Swords upside down is the last card of the reading. So that is like a continuation of a Swords journey from 5 to 7. So for me, even though they're upside down, we can kind of see a level of progress in the numbers of that. So this is a real anxiety card. So I feel like what's happening specifically with Venus in retrograde, and if you think of the sun as the center, the greatest, brightest self, okay? And in your chart, that's what the sun represents for you. And then you imagine reflecting on the choices you've made. Do you value? What are your values and morals? Because this is very Venusian. And you're reflecting on the things you've done, and some of them don't feel like they were the right choices. This is where we seem to be getting a little stuck in a loop with this 5 of Swords right now. Is, should I have done that? Could I have done it differently? Maybe I was deceitful and not completely self-honoring. And Leo rules the heart. So it's like, am I coming from my heart when I do this? Or when I did that, was it a heart-centered response or a ego-centered response? And sometimes it's both. Sometimes, it's muddy and muddly. And that's really what these retrogrades give us the opportunity to do, to reflect and to take ownership and accountability of, I don't feel good about how I handled that situation. Or is it that others are judging me when they weren't walking around in my skin that's influencing how I feel about myself? Do I know that I did this to the best of my ability? So because this card is actually upside down, for me, it's a little bit more positive because it's kind of often going to be that when you're starting to realize a lot of my anxiety and worry and stress is based on other people's perceptions or society's perceptions. And the concept of perception has been coming up for us many a week of late. So the perception and the perspective that I am carrying in my thinking. The inner critic is, whose voice has the inner critic got? Is it your own voice? And does it come from your own heart? Or is it the voice of a critical mother or father figure or teacher figure or societal expectation that is in your head? And this is a great opportunity to unravel that and recognize what is mine and what to carry and what isn't. Because sure, none of us are always operating perfectly. In fact, that's impossible to do. So there may be things that you feel you could have done better or differently, and that you have a certain level of guilt or shame around. But I'm willing to bet that for most of us, a lot of the guilt and shame we carry isn't even ours to carry. So that is very important, and it leads us directly into the Hermit, because the Hermit is, first of all, it's the only major arcana card that we have this week, but also the Hermit is deep internal reflection. So when you recognize you're having Five of Swords stuff swirling and creating sleepless nights and heavy anxiety, the answer is not to keep that loop going. It's to try and find your center. And even in this, the little hermit in the card is glowing, and you can see the lantern further down is glowing. And it's about tapping into the self that is the sun, not the egocentric in a negative way, but the egocentric, heart-centric. Let me focus on what is coming from within me, not from external expectations and narratives and paradigms. What do I truly feel? And in order to do that, we sometimes have to kind of try and get really quiet, really separate from the things that inform us. So maybe just taking a 10-minute meditation, or taking a half-hour stroll, or taking a day-long hike, even alone. Hermit really does want us to do something alone. Journaling processes are good. Pick your poison, but time alone to unravel what is mine and what is not. And then I love the Eight of Pentacles card. I say it every time, not the least of which that it has the beautiful moon cycle pentacles in this particular deck. It brings in all the elements. It brings in all the suits. It brings in the kind of culmination of the wisdoms. And it's really a card that's saying you are working hard, you are on track, you're doing the work, and you are deserving of reaping the rewards. But then that leads us straight into the one that we had recently, I think, and another concept that's been coming up is linking to the poverty consciousness, the feeling of, or the imposter syndrome. I'm not actually worthy of what I've got. So we can see a vacillating right now. But again, that feels actually positive, because if we go from I'm working hard, I'm earning my dreams, I'm following my heart, I deserve, and then we spin to the other side of that, like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve. Then we get to see that with greater clarity during this Venus retrograde, especially this week with the Sun and Venus so tightly enmeshed together. We definitely get to see that vacillating swing. And then when we swing deep into the imposter syndrome, we need to go, well, is this true? And what makes me less worthy or less able or capable than another? And if there's a space where that feels like there is a truth to it, what can I do to change that? Is there something that I need to study? Is there some level of number of hours of practice that will make me feel like I am now ready? Do I want to discount my service until I feel like I am ready? But also, I am working hard. Eight of Pentacles. I am doing what needs doing. I'm working methodically. I'm working cyclically. I'm doing the work. So it's like owning where you're putting in the effort, and also owning where you're feeling less than. Because that is very, very Venusian for us to have this strong sense of self-worth or value, or this, conversely, this low sense of self-worth and self-value. And that is what we want to work on. And then we kind of bounce our way back into the Hermit and go, let me get quiet with me. Let me check in with me. Why is it that I think I am so worthy? And why is it that I believe I am unworthy? And whose voice is that in my head? What part of that is mine to carry, and what part belongs to another? So that we don't come back into this constant spiraling in the anxiety sense, but more in the introspective sense. So I feel quite a strong connection to the first two cards, having that sort of pendulum swing between just like super stressed hamster wheel mind to quiet, still meditative mind, and the vast differences between the two. And here with the I've done the work, I'm earning what I deserve, I serve, I deserve, versus I am not worthy and I am ashamed that I am stealing from someone by asking for this amount of money, let's say, for a service or whatever the case may be. So the overall reading is showing those extremes. And when we work with our shadow self and our light self, neither of which are good or bad, they just show two different sides of ourselves. As we learn to integrate them and let them work together and be kind of one, the space between that pendulum swing gets smaller. And I really feel like that's a very big part of what this Venus retrograde in Leo and this week with the Sun and Venus so working so strongly together is trying to show us. We don't constantly need to feel like we are either God's gift or we are pond scum. We don't need it to be that extreme. How do we get clearer in ourselves to bring that in, bearing in mind that nobody is ever going to feel completely happy with themselves and worthy and valuable at every moment of every day. And that's human. That's okay. So you've got this, I've got this, we've got this. I'm also wanting to do a deep Venus reflection for the star point, where we will do a workshop for you to write your own story of how Venus has impacted you, being supported and facilitated by me. So if you are interested in information on that, please get in touch with me, and for any of the other services that I offer. I hope you have a beautiful week. Thank you for watching.